Welcome to Feminine Vibes, where every change tells a story. I never thought one afternoon alone could change everything about how I saw myself. My name is Daniel, I'm 24, and for as long as I can remember, I've been living with a secret I didn't even fully understand. On the surface, I'm a normal guy working at a small bookstore, living in a cozy apartment filled with old novels and coffee mugs I never use, and dating Emma, the most dazzling woman I've ever met. To her, I'm reliable, calm, even charming in a quiet sort of way. But she doesn't know that underneath the layers of flannel shirts and untied sneakers, I crave something entirely different. Something I've never admitted to anyone. It started with curiosity, like a flicker I couldn't ignore. I found an old dress in my mother's closet one rainy afternoon when I was 16. The fabric was soft, almost delicate, and I hesitated before slipping it over my head. The moment it brushed against my skin, I felt a thrill I couldn't explain, exhilaration mixed with a warmth that filled a space inside me I hadn't even known was empty. From that moment, cross-dressing became my secret refuge, my hidden world where the rules of society and expectation didn't apply. Over the years, I learned to keep it hidden. Every outfit, every wig, every carefully applied stroke of makeup was tucked away in the small corner of my room, safe from prying eyes. And yet, the secrecy made it more intoxicating. I would spend hours alone, transforming into someone else entirely, someone graceful, confident, and alive in a way Daniel, the normal guy, could never be. Emma is wonderful in every way, but she is also unpredictable. Sharp, intelligent, and observant, she notices everything, or so I think. The fear of her discovering my secret has always been a thrilling tension, a game of how long I can keep my true self hidden. Every day, I wonder, what if she finds out? Would she laugh? Would she hate me? Or would she simply not understand? These questions haunt me even when I'm walking beside her, smiling at her stories, pretending I'm just like every other man she knows. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. Emma's cousin, Lydia, came to visit. She's mesmerizing, calm, commanding, and unnervingly perceptive. I had met her before at a family dinner, and there was a subtle aura about her, like she could see right through the walls I carefully built around myself. She noticed something in my eyes that I hadn't meant to reveal, something fleeting yet undeniable. She smiled knowingly, a half-smile that made my stomach twist. "You seem restless," she said softly, her voice smooth, almost hypnotic. "Would you like to see something different?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to run, but another part, the part one had kept hidden for years, thrilled at the idea of discovery, even if it wasn't mine to control. I don't know," I stammered. "Trust me," she said. "It will feel liberating." And that was how it began. Her voice was calm, deliberate, and before I knew it, I felt my thoughts scattering, like leaves caught in a sudden wind. I couldn't focus on the world outside her words. Everything became distant, and a strange sense of weightlessness overtook me. It was exhilarating, terrifying, and somehow beautiful. When I finally opened my eyes, something was different. I couldn't immediately place it, but a subtle shift had occurred, an unfamiliar clarity mixed with confusion. My reflection in the mirror seemed off. I was still me, yet not entirely. For the first time in years, I felt the boundaries of my identity blur, and it was both thrilling and frightening. I didn't know then, but Lydia's hypnosis had planted a seed, one that would grow quickly and uproot everything I thought I knew about myself. That night, alone in my apartment, I found myself staring at the clothes I had once cherished in secrecy. My fingers trembled as I reached for a soft, cream-colored dress I had hidden for years. The memories of past transformations washed over me, how it felt to run my hands over satin, to balance nervously on heels that made me feel taller, lighter, more daring. And now, with Lydia's strange influence still lingering in my mind, I felt a pull I couldn't resist. I undressed quickly, heart pounding, and slid the dress over my head. The fabric kissed my skin, and I felt a shiver that wasn't just cold. My reflection stared back, revealing Daniel in a form I barely recognized. My chest rose and fell with nervous excitement. I touched my cheeks, applying makeup with care, tracing eyeliner along my eyes as if each stroke were a secret I could finally admit to the world. My hair tumbled over my shoulders in soft curls, and I adjusted the wig until it felt like part of me. I wasn't Daniel anymore. I was someone else. But even as I reveled in this transformation, fear lingered. What if Emma returned early? What if she saw me like this? The thrill and the panic collided, making my hands shake as I tried to steady my breathing. My phone buzzed. It was her, checking in. I lied, just reading, and forced a calm tone into my voice that I didn't feel. As night fell, I paced my room, fully dressed, fully transformed, feeling a strange disconnection from reality. I laughed quietly at the absurdity, at the danger, at the freedom all at once. And yet, deep down, a tiny, insistent fear whispered, what if I couldn't go back to being Daniel? What if something had shifted, something irreversible? The next days would reveal just how much power Lydia's words had over me, how fragile my sense of self really was, and how the person I had hidden for so long might soon replace the life I thought I owned. And I realized, with a mix of awe and terror, that I was standing on the edge of a transformation I could no longer control. The following days were a strange mixture of exhilaration and dread. Lydia's words lingered in my mind like a soft echo, insistent, persuasive, almost hypnotic even when she wasn't there. I found myself thinking about her constantly, about that one afternoon when her calm voice seemed to unravel every certainty I had about myself. But more than that, I was drawn, irresistibly, to the corner of my room where my secret collection waited. The dresses, the wigs, the carefully organized shoes, they all called to me like old friends whispering forgotten truths. One evening, when the apartment was quiet and Emma was working late, I couldn't resist anymore. My heart raced as I slipped into a soft, lavender dress, its silk brushing over my arms and back in a sensation that made my stomach flutter. I hadn't worn this one in months, and seeing it laid out reminded me of the thrill I had felt the first time I tried it on. My hands shook slightly as I pulled it over my head, smoothing the fabric so it fell perfectly along my frame. Standing before the mirror, I barely recognized myself. "Daniel," I whispered to my reflection, my voice catching. "Is this still you?" I applied makeup slowly, deliberately, eyeliner, mascara, a light touch of blush, and as I did, I felt a curious sense of detachment. My own reflection seemed both familiar and foreign. My curls framed my face, soft and voluminous, the wig perfectly styled. I slid into heels, the tips clicking softly against the wooden floor, and I allowed myself to breathe deeply. In that moment, I felt complete. And yet, the fear never left. Every creak of the apartment, every passing car outside, made my pulse spike. Emma could walk in at any second. What would she think if she saw me like this? Would she scream, laugh, or simply stare in disbelief? These thoughts collided with the rush of excitement, making my hands tremble as I balanced precariously on the heels. I had never felt so vulnerable, and yet so alive. Hours passed, but the thrill never dulled. I tried on several outfits, experimenting with colors and textures, sometimes laughing quietly at the absurdity of my double life. I spoke softly to my reflection, practicing phrases I might say if I were ever caught. "It's just clothes. Just for fun. It doesn't change who I am." But even as I said it, a part of me wondered if I was lying to myself more than anyone else. The next challenge came unexpectedly. Lydia called, her voice smooth and commanding over the phone. "I hope you're exploring, Daniel," she said. "You have potential you don't even realize yet. Don't be afraid to go further." I shivered. Her words had a strange power over me, nudging me into places I wouldn't normally go. I found myself obeying impulses I barely understood, reaching for outfits and wigs I had reserved for special occasions. Each transformation made me feel a little more detached from Daniel, a little more immersed in the persona I was creating. One afternoon, Emma texted asking if I could run an errand for her. My stomach tightened. I had just transformed into a particularly daring outfit, a short, emerald green dress with flowing sleeves and heels that made my legs feel impossibly long. I hesitated, unsure if I could maintain composure if she appeared suddenly. But the temptation was too strong. I slipped on a light cardigan over the dress, hoping it would mask my appearance just enough, and stepped outside. The city streets were familiar, yet I felt entirely exposed, acutely aware of every glance and sound. My reflection in shop windows startled me, It was not just Daniel I saw but a hybrid of identities, someone walking a line between two lives. I tried to breathe normally, tried to remind myself that I could change back at any moment. But the thrill was addictive. When I returned, Emma's apartment was still quiet. I closed the door gently behind me, taking a moment to steady my shaking hands. I stared at myself in the hallway mirror and realized how far I had already come. The hesitation that had once held me back had dissolved, replaced by a daring confidence I had never felt as Daniel. And yet, beneath the surface, fear remained, a fear that this double life might be discovered, that the balance could shatter at any moment. That night, alone in the apartment, I allowed myself to explore further. I lined up all my dresses, selecting a deep red one with lace detailing, soft and delicate yet commanding. As I slipped into it, I felt a strange sense of ownership over the persona it evoked. Applying makeup was no longer just a ritual, it was a transformation of spirit. I practiced walking, sitting, tilting my head in the mirror, adjusting the wig until it felt alive on my scalp. I had become someone else entirely, someone I didn't know but couldn't resist. The hours blurred. I lost track of time, lost track of Daniel, caught entirely in the thrill of becoming someone else. I whispered to my reflection, "This is me, or is it?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, a lingering tension I couldn't shake. The suspense escalated further when Lydia visited again. She arrived unannounced, a knowing smile playing across her lips. "I see you've been practicing," she said, her voice calm, almost hypnotic. "Good. But remember, control is an illusion. Sometimes, you need to let go entirely." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to resist, to assert Daniel, but the pull was irresistible. I nodded silently, feeling the delicate boundary between control and surrender blur further. She guided me through movements, postures, expressions that felt foreign yet exhilarating. I laughed nervously, but there was a thrill in obedience, in letting someone else mold me in subtle ways I hadn't allowed before. Even as excitement surged, guilt gnawed at me. What if Emma discovered this? What if my entire life shifted in an instant because of one impulsive choice? I knew she would never understand, or perhaps she would, but at what cost? Every fear collided with every thrill, making my heart pound in my chest. By the end of that week, I realized the transformation was no longer just physical. I had started thinking differently, feeling differently, seeing the world through a lens Daniel had never glimpsed. Lydia's hypnosis had planted seeds I could no longer ignore, and my secret world had grown more complex, more intoxicating, and more dangerous than ever before. And just when I thought I could handle it, a sudden knock on the door froze me in place. My pulse spiked. Could it be Emma? Had she returned early? My reflection in the mirror, fully transformed, stared back at me, unflinching, almost daring me to face the unknown. My fingers trembled as I took a step toward the door, aware that whatever happened next could change everything forever. The knock on the door felt like a hammer striking my chest. My heels clicked against the floor as I froze, staring at the reflection in the mirror. I was fully dressed in a sapphire blue gown, my curls perfectly falling around my shoulders, makeup applied meticulously, and every detail of the transformation complete. Daniel's calm, predictable world was gone. Standing before the door, I realized with a jolt how fragile this double life had become. I hesitated, heart hammering. Each second stretched into eternity. Then another knock, louder this time, insistent. My mind raced. Emma. Could she have returned early from work? I pressed my back to the wall, feeling the soft silk of the dress against my arms, the heels making my legs ache with tension. I wanted to run, but the space was too small, the transformation too complete to hide behind furniture. "Daniel," a voice called softly. My stomach dropped. It wasn't Emma. Lydia stepped into the room as if she had been inside all along. Her eyes gleamed with that calm, almost dangerous power she always carried. "Relax," she said, voice smooth, coaxing. "No one is here to judge you but yourself." I swallowed hard, trembling. I wasn't expecting you," I admitted. She smiled faintly, and there was a strange comfort in her presence, even as the tension in my chest refused to subside. "Good," she said. "That hesitation is exactly what I wanted. You're learning that control is fleeting. Let go, Daniel. Trust me. I tried to resist, tried to cling to Daniel, to the safe identity I had always known. But the thrill, the undeniable pull of transformation, kept me rooted to the spot. Lydia guided me slowly, demonstrating gestures, tilts of the head, posture that made the dress flow elegantly. My reflection mirrored every movement, almost mocking me with the grace I hadn't known I could possess. Then it happened the moment I had feared. A sudden noise outside the apartment, a sound of keys rattling in the lock. My breath caught in my throat. Emma. She was home early. Panic surged, making my hands shake as I turned toward the mirror, considering my options. Could I hide? Could I change back quickly enough? My mind raced. The door handle twisted. My heart nearly stopped. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching the dress, hoping for a miracle. Emma opened the door slowly, smiling, and froze at the sight before her. Her eyes widened, scanning every detail of my transformation, and I felt exposed in a way I had never felt before. Daniel. Her voice was soft, uncertain, and it cut through me like a knife. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words stuck, trapped behind a tangle of fear and excitement. Before I could respond, Lydia stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. Emma, she said, calm and authoritative, this is who he is right now. Not a threat, not a joke. Just, Daniel. Emma blinked, confusion and curiosity warring in her expression. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the vulnerability of the moment overwhelming. I wanted to hide, to run, but the dress, the wig, the heels, they made me feel powerful even as I was terrified. I didn't know, Emma whispered. Her voice trembled slightly, but there was no anger, only astonishment. My legs shook, and I gripped the fabric, trying to steady myself. The world had narrowed down to 3 people in the apartment, me, Emma, and Lydia. And in that suspended moment, I realized that the line between fear and exhilaration had vanished entirely. Then came the unexpected twist. My reflection in the mirror caught a movement behind me, a small heel slipping on the wooden floor. The dress swayed dangerously. I lunged to steady it, but the motion drew Emma's gaze directly to the mirror, reflecting not just Daniel but the new persona I had become. I felt an almost magical sense of vulnerability, as though the mirror had revealed more than my appearance. It had exposed my secret, my hidden desires, and my unspoken fears. Emma stepped closer, voice quieter now, almost reverent. You've been hiding this part of yourself. I nodded silently, unable to speak. Words seemed inadequate. The blue of the dress, the curls framing my face, the delicate shoes, all of it was me, yet not entirely me. I realized, with a mix of awe and dread, that I had crossed a threshold. Daniel was no longer fully in control. Lydia, sensing the tension, said softly, "This is what I meant by letting go. You can't control everything, Daniel. Sometimes, you must trust yourself and others to see the truth." For the first time, I felt a shift not just in how I looked, but in how I existed. The fear, the thrill, the secrecy, it all collided in one breathtaking moment. Emma reached out hesitantly, touching the edge of the wig, her fingers brushing my cheek. The gesture was gentle, non-judgmental, yet it made my heart pound. I realized she wasn't recoiling, wasn't laughing, wasn't angry. She was observing, processing, perhaps beginning to understand. But before the calm could settle, another knock came at the door. My pulse jumped again. Who could it be now? A neighbor? A friend of Emma's? The suspense crushed me with its intensity. Lydia glanced at me, her eyes sharp, almost daring me to face whatever came next. I took a deep breath, heels clicking against the floor as I moved toward the door, heart racing. The world outside seemed distant, yet the stakes could not have been higher. I was exposed, transformed, caught between identities, and completely at the mercy of circumstance. Emma's eyes never left me, and Lydia's calm presence was both a comfort and a challenge. I realized, in that instant, that nothing would ever be the same. The secret I had guarded for years was no longer mine alone, and the boundaries between Daniel and the persona I had created had blurred beyond repair. And as I reached the door, the knocking continued, urgent, insistent, leaving me frozen with anticipation, uncertainty, and a thrilling, terrifying awareness that my life had been irrevocably changed in a single afternoon. The knocking at the door echoed through my apartment like a warning, a drumbeat of tension that made my heels click faster against the wooden floor. Emma's eyes were wide, a mixture of curiosity, shock, and something I couldn't quite read. Lydia stood silently beside me, calm and composed, but I could feel the electric energy radiating from her, a subtle challenge that made my heart race even faster. I hesitated, fingers trembling as I reached for the door handle. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to slip out of the heels and dress and pretend none of this had ever happened. But I couldn't. I was trapped, exposed, standing fully transformed in a sapphire blue gown, curls cascading over my shoulders, makeup perfectly in place, the heels making me feel both vulnerable and powerful at the same time. Emma's voice was soft now, almost a whisper. "Daniel, what's happening?" Before I could answer, the door swung open. And there, in the narrow hallway, stood someone I never expected, my mother. Her eyes went wide as they landed on me, her mouth opening slightly, words caught in surprise. I froze completely. The dress, the wig, the heels, all of it screamed my secret louder than I ever thought possible. "Mom," I stammered, unsure what to say, unsure how to explain years of hidden desire, curiosity, and transformation in a single moment. My pulse throbbed in my temples. Lydia stepped forward, placing a calming hand on my shoulder. "It's all right. Let's take this slowly. Daniel is exploring who he really is." Emma's hand found mine, squeezing lightly, a silent reassurance that I wasn't alone. But I could feel my mind spinning. How much had I revealed? How much would be understood? My mother's eyes scanned me, a mixture of shock, confusion, and perhaps the faintest trace of curiosity. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. I didn't want you to see me like this." She shook her head slowly, not with anger, but with a subtle acknowledgement that she had caught more than she expected. "Daniel." Her words faltered. "I didn't need more." I could feel the tension, the fear, and the strange excitement coiling tightly inside me. Then Lydia's voice cut through the room, calm but commanding. "Daniel, remember what we discussed. Identity is not just what others see, it's what you allow yourself to feel. Let go of fear. Let yourself exist fully." Her words hit me like a wave. In that instant, I felt a strange clarity, a thrilling yet terrifying surrender. I could sense a transformation not just of appearance but of the soul. Daniel was no longer entirely in control. Part of me had shifted irrevocably, and I didn't know if I could or wanted to return. My mother's gaze softened slightly, though she remained silent, and Emma's fingers lingered on mine. Lydia smiled faintly, as if she knew the exact effect of her presence. The tension in the room was palpable, almost unbearable, every heartbeat a drum in my chest. And then, a sudden noise from the hallway, the unmistakable sound of a key turning in the lock. Someone else was coming. My heart leapt into my throat. Who could it be? Another neighbor? A friend of Emma's? The unknown pressed against the edges of my consciousness, daring me to panic. I glanced at the mirror, catching my fully transformed reflection, Daniel, but not Daniel, standing tall, graceful, exposed, and entirely vulnerable. My mind raced. Could I hide? Could I retreat into the persona I had mastered over months of secret practice? Or had that line between identities vanished completely? The door creaked open, and the figure in the hallway remained silhouetted in shadow. The tension was suffocating, the suspense unbearable. I could feel every muscle in my body locked, every heartbeat screaming. My fingers clenched the fabric of the gown, heels pressing into the floor as I prepared to face the unknown. Emma whispered my name, soft but urgent, and I realized that the world as I had known it, safe, predictable, controllable, was gone. In its place was something raw, thrilling, and entirely uncertain. Lydia's words echoed in my mind. Let go. Trust yourself. Be who you are. And in that suspended moment, with the stranger at the door, Emma's hand on mine, and my reflection staring back from the mirror, I understood fully that everything was about to change. My secret, my transformation, and my hidden desires had collided with reality, leaving me on the edge of a new life I could neither escape nor fully control. The figure at the door moved closer, the knocking began again on the frame behind them, and the room held its breath. My pulse thundered, my body tensed, and I realized with both awe and fear that the next few moments could redefine everything I had ever known. And then, just as the door began to swing fully open, the screen fades to black, leaving the sound of my heartbeat and the faint whisper of Lydia's voice lingering in the air. Are you ready to forget who you were? The story doesn't end here. Comment below what you think will happen next. Will Daniel's secret be revealed completely? Will he embrace the transformation or retreat? Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of this thrilling journey.